Did you think Call of Duty Infinite Warfare was bad?
Send in the Marines!
Think again. These Call of Duty games are much, much worse. Hi guys, my name is Elijah, and today on Rocket Sloth, we are taking a look at the top 10 worst Call of Duty games of all time, in no particular order. Let's get into it. Number 10, Call of Duty Strike Team. This mobile game took a really odd mix of top-down gameplay and first-person shooters and combined them together. While this game took on a solid attempt to bring a lot of features and options for a Call of Duty experience on the go, it just fell flat. With terrible controls that often feel like your player is slipping out of control and a terrible AI that just doesn't feel remotely close to realistic, this frustrating at times game earns a pass on the must-play Call of Duty titles. Number 9, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 on the Nintendo Wii. Yeah, remember how exciting the Modern Warfare 3 campaign was, where there's excitement and explosions around every single corner? Now meet the Nintendo Wii version of the game that had severely downgraded graphics and effects in an attempt to keep up with the versions of the games that were released on superior consoles. Besides the bland-looking level design and pixelated movement, you also have to play the game with a Wiimote and nunchuck, unless you buy a different controller separately. Definitely not the steadiest way to play a game. Number 8, Call of Duty Classic. The original Call of Duty game released in 2003 was amazing. This re-release on the Xbox 360 and PS3, not so much. Sure, the campaign was fun to play again for nostalgia purposes, but remember this re-release was put alongside Modern Warfare 2, arguably one of the best Call of Duty games of all time. The game held up okay-ish, but the added multiplayer feature was straight up broken. It was hard to find people to play with, and whenever you finally did find people to play with, the dated gameplay kinda just bled through. Number 7, Call of Duty 3 for the Nintendo Wii. Oh boy, this was my very first Call of Duty game of all time, and it's also the last Wii title on this list. But what a terrible way for me to be introduced into this franchise. This game was released during a time where not a whole lot of games were out for the Nintendo Wii. But similarly to Modern Warfare 3, this game has really uncomfortable controls using the Wiimote and nunchuck. This game has the graphics and textures that are 5 years older than the Modern Warfare 3 port, so if you get motion sickness, it might do you a solid to play this one on your Xbox instead of the Wii. The story wasn't that bad, but the cut features and graphics from the console version makes this version of the game not even worth the time. Number 6, Call of Duty Ghosts. At its core, this game's not as bad as some of the other games on this list, but this game was a huge disappointment to any Call of Duty fan who was a fan of the Modern Warfare trilogy. Infinity Ward was able to develop hit after hit with its original Call of Duty games, and then the Modern Warfare trilogy was just amazing. So when Infinity Ward launched what was to be their new trilogy, it just flopped. They overhauled the map design so veteran players had to relearn the game, and the story was really corny.
But your father's not there anymore.
Dad, this whole time you were one of them. You're a ghost.
Try the ghost!
Oh, and we haven't even gotten into the fact that they reused cutscenes from the Modern Warfare trilogy. Yeah, not a good thing to do. Number 5, Call of Duty Heroes. You know what everyone loves about the Call of Duty games? The upbeat action from the first-person perspective. You know what Call of Duty Heroes did? None of that. This game is a top-down strategy game that isn't even fun, and really isn't even a Call of Duty game at all. It's just a cash grab by Activision to make some money without actually having to make an innovative game. Shame on you, Activision. Number 4, Call of Duty World at War for the Nintendo DS. Yeah, sometimes you just have to stop and scratch your head for a second and ask why. One of the last Call of Duty games to take place during World War II, you know, prior to Call of Duty World War II, this game delivers an experience unlike anything else. It's awful. The controls are uncomfortable, requiring a stylus to look around, and the pixelated characters just don't translate well on the Nintendo DS hardware. Call of Duty World at War for PC, Xbox 360, and PS3 are definite buys, but World at War on the DS, you can just skip it. Number 3, Call of Duty Roads to Victory. Thought Call of Duty on the DS was bad? Try it on the PSP. This game actually could have been a decent attempt. It plays smoothly at first and has impressive textures for a PSP title, and then you get into the gameplay. Quickly, players will find themselves glitching out randomly, and the controller scheme on the PSP is just uncomfortable and clunky. If you're hoping for an awesome on-the-go Call of Duty experience, maybe you should start looking again. Number 2, Call of Duty Black Ops 3 for the Xbox 360 and PS3. The current generation of gaming started up for the most part in 2013, so why is it that almost 3 years and 3 Call of Duty games later, Call of Duty was still being released on last-gen consoles? I can tell you why. Activision thought it would make more money. But to make up for a modern game to run on older hardware, Activision had to make severe cuts to the gameplay. Graphics and textures on the maps are all downscaled, there's no access to the paint job section of the game, the frame rate is sluggish, and they just completely cut out the campaign altogether. On top of all of that, the game was still sold for $50, which is only a $10 cut from the full version of the game that saw release. That's some shady business. And number 1, Call of Duty Black Ops Declassified. Besides the extremely redundant title, this game may be the worst Call of Duty of all time. Following the failure of Roads to Victory on the PSP, Declassified takes things to a whole new level, and it's awful. The game's campaign, if you want to call it that, is literally just 10 short Spec Ops missions, the AI is glitched to hell, and the hit detection is sometimes non-existent, which can be really frustrating. The multiplayer is extremely scaled down, only using a 4v4 style of gameplay, and the multiplayer maps are really small, like half the size of Nuketown. And it just leads to a tedious, unoriginal style of play. Well, that's our list. Did you disagree with our list? Leave a comment down below with your list for your top 10 worst Call of Duties of all time. And while that may be it for today, be sure to subscribe for gaming lists, discussion, and news uploaded daily here on Rocket Sloth, your #1 source for all things gaming.